Hey everybody, thank you for joining me. I'm Jenni June, child and family sleep consultant and lactation counselor here in Los Angeles. I have been doing this since 2011, and I am also a member of the National Sleep Foundation, a practitioner, a collaborator with the Breathe Institute in Los Angeles, and I'm a mom of 4 and a grandmother of 1. So with that said, hi Mark, thanks for joining us. Hi Amy. We're going to get started. Again, forgive the bleakness of this. My office is just under, a complete redo, and it's just boring right now. There's nothing fun to look at. But we're going to give you something great to listen to, some great tips today. We are totally focused on naps right now, and we're going to, talk about the difference between scheduling naps, wake windows versus the time on the clock. This is kind of controversial, and I noticed that when I peek into some of my, sleep associations that I belong to with, hundreds, I think we're getting to thousands of sleep consultants out there, I'm noticing a lot of sleep consultants are getting this wrong. And I just want to say something so bad, but I know that I have to give everybody their space to learn, learn as you go along, like I had to do over the years with thousands of cases. So, hi Amy. Oh my goodness, it's so good to see you here. And Hanny, everybody, thank you so much for joining me. Let's talk about those naps. All right, so I personally, in my work in Los Angeles and with clients all over, I prefer to do wake windows before the daytime circadian rhythm is developed and fully mature in a child. And that starts to happen right around 5.5 to 6 months old. So prior to that, earlier than that, when we're, looking at, when do we put our child down for those naps? I mean, even when they're little, when you shouldn't even be sleep training, they need naps, right? And typically we just go off of their cues and sometimes even wake windows. And that's fine. That's appropriate in those situations. Wake windows are, popular, with a lot of people, but they don't work. They're wondering why naps aren't coming together and why they're not lengthening and stretching beyond that 30-minute, little, micro nap, I call them. They're not lengthening and stretching, and they're taking multiple, like 3-4 naps a day after 6 months old, and none of them are actually restorative, and the child is a hot mess, and it's actually negatively impacting night sleep like we talked about last week. Remember when we talked about how naps and night sleep are totally connected. If you think you're doing great in one, but you got a mess over in the other side, it's really usually because this one that you think is great isn't as great as you think it is. So check out last week's video on that topic, and you'll see why those are connected. But bottom line, I am a fan of time frames on the clock, and I'll tell you why, especially once that daytime circadian rhythm is mature. And again, that happens between 5.5 and 6 months old, where, and the nighttime circadian rhythm, that part of our brain, the ability to produce melatonin on a timed basis and sleep, consolidate sleep at night and rather than sleeping, halfway, partly all day and partly all night. So when this happens, when this maturity happens, and again, the night sleep is like right 16 weeks is when that comes into full maturity, day sleep, naps, the ability to produce melatonin on a time basis during the day and take long restorative naps happens around 5.5, 6 months old. Now, the wake windows don't work when that part of the circadian rhythm is developed. And the reason is because once that's fully mature, there's times of the day, there's sweet spots when core body temperatures naturally drop and melatonin levels naturally elevate. And that is where we are able to put a child down when we know when those are, and it's different for different ages, developmentally, but when we know when those are, we should be looking to, have the meal finished, have the pre-sleep routine done, and laying your child down in that window. When that melatonin, that powerful sleep hormone, is elevating in the system. And if you're timing that right on the clock, and it is dictated by the rising and the setting of the sun and the way the earth, the position the earth rotates on its axis. That's science, people, and there's nothing you can do to change it. You can't change biological wake times, which is a whole other video back in, a few months ago, and you can't change these time frames on the clock when it comes to when these hormones elevate in the system. And ideally, this is when you should be already laying your child down for naps when that is happening. And there are sweet spots on the clock for that. And it doesn't matter what time the child woke up for the day, and it should not matter what signs, especially when you're initially nap training. Now, when I talk about, my second pillar of sleep hygiene, which is the cues, I really have parents focus on those, more for night sleep, the evidence. So, because when I tell them how early their kid needs to go to bed, most of them don't believe me, and they're like, "You're crazy, lady." But I'm like, let's look at the evidence. When we can see the hormones, you can see it. There's physiological signs. But in the daytime, when we're approaching naps and we're recalibrating and we're plugging in day sleep with, in alignment with their natural circadian rhythms, natural biological rhythms, it's going to be a hot mess for the first week. It's going to look like jet lag for the first week. So don't go by cues when you're trying to recalibrate day sleep and sync it with their natural biological rhythms. If you're going by cues, you're going to be all over the place. So you've got to really hold firm to those time frames on the clock. No matter what signs you're seeing, you got to jump out of that reactive mode with your child, which has you, spinning around in vicious cycles and all over the place, unable to get anything scheduled. And you've got to be responsive instead. And that's where my 4 pillars of sleep hygiene come into play. It really helps parents to discern the difference between tears or struggle, tears or frustration of temporary struggle versus tears of suffering, which we always immediately respond to. So, we need to know how to discern the difference between those two. And that's what those 4 pillars do. And they also really help to put the science together as the foundation so that your child's brain and body want to do the sleeping. And it's all downhill from there. The only thing left to fight it after that is the child's will and the temporary process of going through that change. But it's got to get worse before it gets better. And so you've got to get your child sleeping in sync with those natural biological rhythms, which are time frames on the clock. And, that is just key. Let me see if I missed anything here on my notes. Let's see here. I think I got most of that said, but I will say this. One of the benefits of doing this, which is sometimes easier said than done, because we parents, we get reactive, but one of the benefits of doing this is that it does regulate the natural biological wake time. You start to see everything settle into a place. Everything starts to settle. It's no longer all over the place, what time they get up for the day, and it's no longer all over the place for night sleep. So those two things start to settle into place when you're not jumping all over the place providing naps at different times of day, different days of the week. So when you schedule it on the clock, there's a huge benefit to that. It really does positively impact wake times and bedtimes, as well as making sure that they're getting the restorative benefits from those naps. And the morning nap is the one that's restorative to the brain, and the afternoon nap is the one that's restorative to the body. And it's also that afternoon nap is the one that's going to impact the quality of your child's night sleep. So you really want to get that right. And the purpose of these naps is to keep them well rested so that when they are going to bed, they're not overtired and don't have the hormones present in their system to do what we're asking them to do. Kelly's with us. Hi, Kelly. Are times on the clock for nap the same for a 6-month-old as a 3-year-old? No, there's differences. A 3-year-old is going to have, isn't going to need as much day sleep. So that's a little different. But good question, Amy. Thank you. And I see Tracy's joining us. Thank you, Tracy. I'm so glad you're here. Okay, so last thing is, let's see here. What are we missing that you guys could take away today? All right. All right. So another positive, here's some good takeaway to just kind of help you kind of get used to this mentality about naps is that just remember that when the body is used to doing something at the same time every day, it starts to prepare you in advance for that activity. Let's take when we eat, for instance, and we know this. We see this in science. We know now that eating at the same time every day is very beneficial for the body, for digestion, for, you know, having a healthy weight and even having healthy eating habits. Because when, you know, for instance, if you know that if you have a habit, if you know that you're eating lunch at 12 o'clock every day, your body gets in a habit of understanding that and knowing that, and that's been taking place, it will start producing those, you know, your mouth will start salivating, you'll start thinking about the meal, you'll start to produce the hormones and the digestive juices, all the things are getting ready right around 11:30, knowing that, you know, your body in that habit, knowing that it's going to eat at noon. So it's the same concept, and we know that that's the healthiest way to eat, is to eat at the same time generally every day if you can, instead of having it being all over the map. And the body can prepare for that and digest properly. So it's the same concept, it's the same thing I want you to wrap your mind around when it comes to napping. And hopefully that will encourage you also, that you're not just taking some random advice that, you know, somebody's guessing at. It's just science. All right, so that's all there is today. I, you know, recommend that you give it a shot, but remember, it's going to take the same amount of time that it takes to get used to even just a 1 hour time change, you know, when we have daylight savings time, or, you know, a little jet lag when you're, you know, coming back from a trip to New York. It's going to take the body, the system, a good 5 days or so to fully adjust to being able to handle, you know, staying awake until a prescribed nap time and producing those hormones on a time basis. It takes time for the body to kind of see these rhythms and these patterns and to get in line with it. And then all of a sudden, your child, who you struggled to keep awake until the morning nap time that you have, you know, you're seeing them all of a sudden, you know, on day 5, day 6 of this, they're able to make it. You're like, whoa. I mean, the hardest part of your day in the first 5 days is not going to be getting your child to sleep. It's going to be getting them to stay awake. And that's a quality problem to have. And that's the process. That's what it looks like when you're syncing your child's sleep with their natural biological rhythms with set nap times on the clock, rather than these don't do these wakefulness windows after 6 months. It doesn't work. Trust me. And some of you already know that. All right. That's it, guys. I hope that was helpful to you. Oh, I see. So many wonderful friends joining me. Thank you so much. I'm so glad you're watching. And again, and I'll give you a heads up. I'm not going to be doing my Facebook Live that I normally do every Thursday at 1 o'clock. I won't be here next Thursday at 1 o'clock because I'll be in a recertification course for my lactation, my CLC certification all week long. It's gonna be so boring. I'm gonna miss you guys. All right. If you have any questions, if you want to see some of my great videos, you know, baby care with Jenni June, 26 episode series that the Baby League Network has produced. It's on my website. It's on YouTube. Check those out. They're very helpful in surviving the first 12 months of your child's life, knowing what to do, and also my blog page. So, and you know, my services, my fees, all of that. It's all on my website. JenniJune.com, JENNI, and then June is in the month, JenniJune.com, and I'll put a link here below in the comments. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. I'll be happy to answer them for you this week. Have a great rest of your week, and we will see you in 2 weeks for the next Facebook Live with Jenni June. Thank you. Bye-bye.